Hi, welcome to the Recovery Daily Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Abassi. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor. Today is Plank Challenge Day number 15, and we are doing the same amount of time that we did yesterday, which always makes me a little nervous. It's like we do the same thing for a few days and then all of a sudden it spikes up like 20 seconds or something like that. But anyway, we'll see what happens. I'm not reading ahead. So today, if you are on the 3-minute track, you will do 70 seconds. And if you're on the 5-minute track, you'll do 90 seconds. Today's episode, I'm exploring the idea that I am unchanged through all of my struggles. So this is a different perspective on what I'm going through. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to reflect on exploring the essence of identity amidst the changes shaped by recovery from alcoholism and surviving a stroke. So despite the shifts in my health, my social circles, my daily routines, and my approach to challenges, due to all the tools that I've been given over the past 7 years in recovery, I'm realizing today, as I explored this perspective on things, that at my core, I've remained unchanged. And that's what I'm claiming today. So let's see how this pans out in my story today. To discuss this, I'm going to start with talking about 5 things that have changed in my life since I began recovery 7 years ago. And then also flowing right into dual recovery 2 years ago. Then I will talk about 5 things that have not changed in my life through it all. So we'll get started. So 5 things that have changed in my life. Okay, we'll start off with number 1, my physical health. I think that's the most obvious one. Alcoholism and the stroke both took a huge toll on my body and challenged me in a lot of ways that I really had no idea from the start what was going on with my body, how bad things were. In both situations, I didn't know really how damaged my body was in both, which is interesting. I hadn't thought about that until now. The journey to recovery has been about claiming my body's strength and learning to listen to its needs more attentively. Through alcoholism, my body was majorly malnourished, and it impacted several of my organs. To name a few, my liver was very, very damaged, to the point where they weren't quite sure if it was going to heal itself, but thankfully it did. My stomach was terrible, absolutely terrible. My skin, that's just a few of them. There are probably lots that happened in there that I'm not aware of. All I know is that when I stopped drinking, everything thankfully started healing and getting better, and things started working better. I'm not aware of permanent damage in my body, though I suspect I had some permanent brain cell damage after all those years of alcohol abuse. My stroke then, just piled on. My body, I'm quite certain, was in shock after I had my stroke. I had several changes that happened just as a woman. There were several changes that happened immediately when I had my stroke. And then, not to mention the changes I experienced with my vision, how much sleep I now require, how much exercise or how little exercise I can handle now, and all the way to constant daily migraines. I have increased anxiety and depression symptoms, and I hope that these are temporary, and these are going to be addressed with going to my psychiatrist and continuing to focus on my health. Number two, something that has changed in my life is my perspective on control. So where I once thought I had control over my life's direction entirely, I thought like I just pick and choose where I'm going in my life and that's it. I have full control. These experiences of alcoholism and stroke actually taught me how to surrender, and gave me an understanding that some things are beyond my control, and that's okay. I've had to learn how to be okay with that. Both of these things have stretched my understanding of how much my life is impacted by people, places, and things, and yet how little I can control beyond my fingertips, that I can only control my reaction and my response to people, places, and things. I really never had such a, I guess, controlled understanding of that. So things just, I think on the inside, I feel much more methodical about how I respond to people, places, and things. It feels like I don't have to hurry up and make decisions anymore. I don't have to hurry up and react. My first reaction is not always my best reaction, that I get to wait and think about how I want to react. And I really never knew that that was possible. Number three, my social circles. Recovery reshaped my social landscape for sure. Relationships that were centered around alcohol fell away, and I started making connections that support my sobriety and a healthier lifestyle. I don't hang out with anyone that I did before I got sober except for my husband. And I miss those people. I do. But we, as I have this one friend. She was my best friend, and she knows who she is. And we really, I think, made a conscious decision that I couldn't hang out with her if she was going to drink like we were drinking when we were hanging out together. And that's what she wanted to do, and it wasn't my place to judge her for that because I was doing it, it's just that in order for me to live, I had to stop, and I couldn't hang out with anyone who was drinking like that. I still don't feel comfortable hanging out with people who drink the way that I used to drink, because it's just, I have lots of icky feelings. I get jealous, I get mad, it's just not healthy for me. So I feel like we made a mutual decision that we just weren't going to, be able to hang out together. And once in a while we reach out to each other, and there's still the exact same love there that there always has been. But I do miss hanging out like that, like I used to. Um, but over time, my sobriety network has grown, and it has taken me quite a long time to really connect with women in sobriety. Um, I I don't know if other people have that struggle, but I certainly have, and I've been through quite a few circles based on which meetings I was frequenting for certain lengths of time. And currently, I feel like my network is really strong, not just with women, but also with men. I have some guys that are in my morning meeting that are like brothers to me. Like I really, really feel like we have a strong connection. And in fact, a bunch of women from my current network are going to be taking me to lunch tomorrow to celebrate my recent nuptials. So I'm very excited about that. And there's like a ton of women going. So I just feel really honored to have that kind of attention. And I'm excited. I have to be careful, make sure that I'm not moving my eyes around a lot. I know that I'm probably going to feel pretty crappy afterwards, and during, but in order to, I don't know, enjoy people, I just feel like I need to risk that every now and then to get out and build my network, and nurture my network. So, but everybody's very aware of my struggles, and I think it'll be fine, as fine as it can be. And in the same way, my stroke survivor and blind and low vision networks are growing also, but I have to put in the work and I have to get uncomfortable for that to happen. That's really something that I've learned from sobriety, that you just have to do it. You don't have to want to do it. You just have to say yes, instead of no, or I don't want to, or I don't feel like it. Like those words don't really pass through my lips anymore. I don't think. I'll have to pay attention to that, but I don't think I really do that anymore. It's either yes or it's I can't. It's never like I don't want to, I don't feel like it. So, okay, number 4, my daily routine has absolutely changed 100%. So it's really gone. Now, I've always had structure. I'm somebody, I'm a creature of extreme habit. And, but these routines are very different than they used to be. I prioritize my well-being, such as meditation and doing some sort of exercise, even if it's just my planks and push-ups, and making sure that I set aside time to eat, and I go to my support group meetings, and I have my hobbies and I have my world famous schedule on my whiteboard and my mirrors. So this is how I handle my routines now. When previously, when I was working, of course, I was on Outlook, and that was what was driving my routine. So I do still use my iPhone, the calendar, in order to organize just my appointments and such, but I continue to make sure that I kind of do the same thing every day that I did the day before. In a way, I'm a strong believer in looking at my day and thinking, okay, what did I do yesterday? Because I stayed sober. So I want to do something similar today so that I stay sober. I think that's a really basic way, elementary way of looking at it. But at times when I'm feeling really icky, that's what makes me feel safest and most comforted, is when I just get back to my routine. And right now, my routine is very self-centered, and I'm working with my psychiatrist to align my activities to my values so that they are more externally focused, meaning I can use my activities to nurture my relationships with my kids and my family and that kind of thing. And and also make things more enjoyable for me by aligning them with my values. And number 5, what has changed is my approach to challenges. Before I got sober, I would look at a challenge and it was just insurmountable, you know? I don't look at challenges that way anymore. I used to feel like they were just a barrier that I was not going to get through. I was lucky if I could figure out how to handle a problem. And today, I'm not just full of it. I'm telling you, I absolutely look at a challenge like an opportunity for growth and self-discovery. I really do. Um, I don't see things like a brick wall in front of me anymore. Instead, they're like a climbing wall. And in front of me is a bunch of different equipment that I get to choose from out of my recovery toolbox to help me up and over the wall. So that's a lot. It's a lot that has changed, right? And that's the part that we already knew. We already knew that everything has changed. That's what it feels like. It feels like everything has changed. It feels like I'm living an entirely different life than I was 7 years ago. And in many ways, well, I mean, in those ways that I just listed, I am. But I wanted to evaluate what things in my life have not changed, because I think by looking at this stuff, I'll feel more grounded to my identity. I've talked about how I have felt for so long that my identity was my career. And I've mentioned how lost I have felt without my job. And what is my identity after all of these changes? So let's look at that. Let's look at what my identity is. And while I do that, I encourage you to think about your own identity and what has stayed the same over all of these years. And I challenge you to even think all the way back to childhood. What is the same on the inside? So I said that I had 5 things, but I think I scrapped one of them. So I have 4 things in my life that haven't changed. I scrapped one because I had a duplicate, because I realized my core values. I've mentioned recently this week that I added family to my core values, and that was one of the 5 things that has not changed. So I condensed them to 4 things that haven't changed. So number 1, my core values. And despite everything, my foundational beliefs and values have remained entirely intact. There's these daggone values that I talk about all the time. And I had 3 values. They were communication, learning, and health. And this week I added family. So I have 4 values now. And I've always cherished my family relationships. I've always been close with my family. And they are just as intact as they have always been. I feel like my relationships with each person in my family have grown exponentially since I got sober. And I've always, you know, I've always turned to my family for help and support. And since I've gotten sober, I see them turning to me sometimes. And that is an amazing feeling. And that's one of the reasons why I feel like my relationships with each one of them have just blossomed into something that I didn't even know. I didn't even know anything was missing from our relationships until they grew. And then I saw what they were missing before. And I'm so happy that I've been able um, to fulfill my role in those relationships, because I think that's what was missing. And communication, I've always loved writing and running my mouth. And since I was in middle school, I was writing poems when I was in middle school. And I did this all through until my 30s, really, that I did this. And it was a way for me to get all of my deepest thoughts out, all of that stuff that was constantly brewing inside of me. I liked to get it out of me. I don't know how I came up with that. It was just something that came natural. I needed to write. And it turns out that my uncle, my great uncle, my grandmother's brother, was also a poet. And so writing, it seems like my father is a really good writer. I don't know if he would admit that, but I think that he's a good writer. So anyway, it seems like some things like that just come, they're like passed down. You don't even know how it happens in your family. But also, I've always loved learning. I've talked about how I never wanted to complete school. Like, I wanted to stay in school forever. What I didn't understand back then was that life is full of learning. That's what life is. That's what you do every day. You learn. And today I get to choose what I want to learn. And sometimes I don't. Sometimes I have to learn things that I don't want to learn. But I get to choose what I want to do with that knowledge after I've learned it. And what I most enjoy is combining what I learn with those deep thoughts and communicate them through my voice. So that combines several of my values together. And then my health, which just once again is part of that, that triple effect. Now it's a quadruple effect, but combining all of these values together, if there's activities that I can combine them, I really, really find those enjoyable, and I always have. Believe it or not, as far as my health goes, I actually used to run when I was drunk, and I used to run hungover. It was terrible. It felt terrible, but for some reason, there must have been something I liked about it because I did it. And it wasn't until I started running when I got sober that I realized how amazing running could be. I must have been scratching the surface of like what that dopamine thing feels like, but without getting clean, I really wasn't experiencing the joy of running as much as I could have. So today I focus every day on my health, and it's even more structured and returns a lot more results than it used to. So these core values are something that I can remember lots of memories. I remember in college I used to I took a running class for one semester. So I used to, I think as part of the class, our assignment was to run like twice a week or something. So right before lunch on like Tuesdays, I would go running and I felt so terrible. I mean, so terrible. I was so hungover. Half the time I was still drunk and I would go running. Um, and yeah, I I don't know. I don't know what I have to say about that. I just can't believe that I did that. I remember, um, probably 10 years later, I did the same thing. I was working my first job. Let's see. No, it was my second job. The job that I worked at when I worked with my husband. And same thing. I used to drink constantly, so I was hungover every morning, and I would get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and go running. After like having only slept 2 hours, I would have been like on the computer and drinking and stuff, and then I'd sleep for 2 hours, wake up, go running, and then go to work. I don't know how I functioned. I guess I was young back then. Okay, so these are some things that didn't change. Okay, so number 2, my passion for life. I have never, I've always felt curious. I've always had a desire to explore the depths of my inner world, my thoughts and my feelings. And I just have so much going on in there. It reminds me of Mean Girls, where the girl stands up in front of the whole school and she says, I just have a lot of feelings. That's me. I just have a lot of feelings. And I just have always loved exploring those. And that was why I wrote, because that was a great way for me to explore them. I can sit in a room and just think. Like, I can sit in a room with no TV on, no book, no radio, anything, and just think and find myself enjoying whatever it is that I'm thinking of. Um, like I said, I used to write lots of poetry about nature. I used to like to compare nature to my feelings and my thoughts, like draw analogies in that way. And I truly have found that my view on the outside world, like when I go out for a walk, being outside is more inspiring now, sober, than it ever was when I was drinking. I used to think that when I was drinking and I was writing poetry that that I couldn't write poetry if I wasn't drinking. I still almost feel that way. But it's because, like, I don't know. There's something there's something that happens when you're drinking and you're writing. Although there are times when I would look at it the next day and I'm like, this is terrible. But going outside sober is just like, there's so much clarity. It's so much more beautiful. I think when I was drinking, I was writing poetry. I was thinking in an abstract way, and I was telling myself stories almost that weren't exactly real, because a lot of those poetries were based on, or poems were based on my depression and my anxiety. So these were made up stories. Yes, my depression and anxiety was real to me, but the stories that I was telling myself were fabricated, if that makes sense. Like, they were they were based on a chemical imbalance within me. So now, being outside and really seeing life with clarity, that passion for life is just enormous now. It's just, it's exploding inside me now. When I go outside, I can feel it just fill my chest with excitement, which is pretty cool. Number 3, my sense of humor. So I feel like laughter has always been a companion of mine, and I'm pretty sure that I may make myself laugh more than I make anyone else laugh, but that's okay. It shows me that I have an excellent relationship with myself, and laughter has been a source of healing for me. There are times that I'm having a terrible day. I feel terrible, and I can still make myself laugh. And it also has been a great way of connecting with others over the years. I find it to be a way that I use humor to try to break through the shell of some of those people out there that are hard nuts to crack. I have run across several of them in my stroke recovery. Doctors, who are kind of like, not the best bedside manner. If I can make one of them smile or laugh, like I feel like I feel like I had a successful day. So this is something that I remember when I was a kid. I remember sitting around with my brother and my sister and my mom and just cracking up. One thing that sticks with me is my sister. I would love to get my sister laughing so hard that she would start crying. It was my favorite thing. And now I do that same thing. Every so often I'll laugh so hard that I start crying, and my kids just think it's so funny. So that's something that has stayed with me all these years. And I think finally my desire to help others. So that's number 4, something that hasn't changed. So I'm extremely empathetic. To the point that sometimes it causes me stress. To an unhealthy degree, it will cause me sadness for others. And sometimes I have to make a decision to let something go, to cut it off because it hurts too bad. And I don't do this, it may come across as me not caring, but it's really because I care too much, and I'm reaching a degree of unhealthy obsession about whatever it is that is affecting somebody else's life, not mine. But I have this way of putting myself in their shoes mentally, to the point that I can make myself sick to my stomach, if depending on what the scenario is. So my experiences with this have now fueled my commitment to support others in their recovery in any way that I can. And I share my insights that I've gained through the years. However, again, there are times that I can't do it. This has never changed in me. I have learned, I think, to manage it better and to identify when it's time to protect myself from pain. And I think that that's important. But my desire to help other people has always been there. I think that today I know a little more how to handle it emotionally, how to handle helping others, yet not living their pain, if that makes sense. So I invite you to consider your own unchanging core amidst life's changes around you. And after all of life's changes are processed through you, what has remained unchanged? From if you're in recovery from something, whether alcoholism, stroke, or whatever you may be dealing with in your life, from a redefined physical health and perspectives on control to those core values. Join me in exploring how, despite everything, you can find grounding in your enduring identity. What remains constant in your life and anchors you? What guides you and signifies to you that you are staying true to yourself? What is that home within you that you retreat to? Whether it's when you crawl into bed and you lay your head down on your pillow, what is going to bed there with you? Is it family? Is it your humor? Is it a hobby like writing, communication, like I was talking about? Is it exercise? Is it a passion for animals? Is it music? Is it healthy? Is that core thing that you retreat to, is it healthy? What have you kept with you your whole life that remains unchanged and makes you, you? So thank you for joining me today on the Recovery Daily podcast, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.